Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yep, sorry.
I thought you said something and I didn't hear you.
Nope, I didn't. It's all good.
How are you this evening, Mr. Shane?
Doing great. Just got home from work and stuffed in some supper quick and on time.
That's awesome. I'm on time. I think it might be warm tomorrow.
Yes.
Warmer.
Warmer, yep. It's raining here.
Let's see. Farmer Mario says hi from TikTok. Just wanted to make sure I don't miss anybody there. So we're also live on TikTok. So he's saying hi.
All right.
So how are you this evening?
Doing pretty good. Ready to talk about some paranormal stuff?
Paranormal stuff and techie stuff and
absolutely
all kinds of good stuff.
Yep. Your watchers are going to see things and hear things their minds probably haven't comprehended before. So
well, that me too, maybe.
Yeah.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So Shane, everybody knows me that's watching. Hi, Ryan. Why don't we just get into it?
Okay.
Let's start very at the beginning. And how did you get into this paranormal stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of got into it in a strange way because I had friends that were in the paranormal, and a lot of times they had their little gadgets, et cetera, and they would have things that are broke. They're like, oh yeah, my camera, the connector's broke, or, some wire's loose, something ain't working, or, they'd have stuff. And so they kept bringing me all these little trinkets and gadgets to play with, and eventually they're like, hey, why don't you come on an investigation once just to see what's going on? And I'm like, sure, I ain't got nothing going. So I went on an investigation, had a pretty good time. Once I kind of realized what was going on, then I was like, well, wait a minute. I think we can do this a little more scientifically and not quite so much,
So when you were like on an investigation with them, you were watching them with the equipment and stuff, and you're like, this isn't diving. This doesn't feel right. Or
this thing that you're using doesn't measure the thing you think it does. And so you're not, what you're getting here is maybe not true, or you don't understand that you're getting things that are naturally occurring or other things like that, because being a science guy and a tech and a like that, a lot of that stuff is just kind of, it's like, I already knew the stuff, even though I wasn't in the paranormal.
Right.
I knew that, wait, that thing can't do that.
Right. When you think like that can't do that, but it's doing it, what do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I look at it as I'm 80% 20% believer. And that 20%, which sometimes I get some pretty good stuff, keeps me going. So, at first I was kind of like, this is just boohickey, this is just, what, you guys are wasting your time, but you're having a good time hanging out in the dark room and talking, Right. But then when I got home and started really thinking about it, I was like, well, you probably could detect those things or do those things if you tried. And then it got to be like, well, these things are too expensive to buy. What if I just started building stuff? And so I started building things.
That's so awesome.
And then, oh yeah, that's the greatest sound right there.
You hear that? Do you know
that's the cat.
Is? She has a ball and she wants to play fetch.
My
cat,
cats do. I got 6 cats, so I know all about cats.
she's like yelling at me. Hold on one second, Shane. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Come on. Come on in. Everybody's in here. You want to come in? Come on. Come on. Come on. It's cozy. I got a show to do. You either in or out. Come on. What you doing? Come on. Come on. Schmicky's in here. Come on. So is Roscoe. Baby girl. Let's go. Come on. Thank you. Sorry.
Hey, no problem.
So, see, that's the thing is that you can actually like you have that I love a smart brain. You know what I mean? Like you can like literally build stuff that like that. Like,
from scratch. I design it and build it.
I don't like things that are built for paranormal investigating.
I agree with you.
Right. So when you're building stuff, are you building stuff with the sense that, okay, if I do this, it'll be easier for spirit? Like, because how do you build something?
Yeah. So here's how I go about it. I spend a lot of time reading research papers, paranormal research papers, Brian Lath and, a lot of those guys, the PhD level actual science papers. And then I look at what their theories are. Well, let's say the theory is ghosts or entities can create or manipulate magnetic fields. Okay, fine. So if they can do that, or they like to do that, then if I build a device that is very sensitive to that particular thing, then I can log it and keep track of it. Then I can come up with things. And so I literally will dive into research papers, dive into previous stuff from the SPR, stuff from way back,
SPR.
The psychical, I can't remember the name of it. It's the UK's psychical research facility. Okay. Then, the SPR, they're big in the ghost community for doing stuff mostly in the UK, but they have a lot of free papers and a lot of stuff online, because a lot of these papers you have to pay like $50 a piece to read them. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that, but I'll get their stuff. And I want to know, what are the current theories? What do other scientists and other people think ghosts could cause or do, or how they could be? And then I try to build sensors that are sensitive to those things. Some things would be like magnetic fields, electric fields, temperature, barometric pressures, things like that. Another things like ions are another one that seems to be very common. And some of these ghost gadgets, I call them, do actually measure those things. Like your friend, the REM pod. A REM pod is really just an ion detector. I have an ion detector built into my sensor board. It's much more sensitive than the REM pod, and it can record values, not just blinky lights, because the nice thing about it is the idea is to take the human subjectivity out of it as much as possible, so that when you get evidence, then you have a lot more to lean on. You could write a paper on it and say, hey, look, these are the numbers I got. This is how it worked. These were the questions that were asked. These are the things that happened. And here's the results. And that's what I think the paranormal community is missing a lot is, EVPs are great. Other people, they record stuff or they get videos, but everything is so subjective. You can't put any statistics to it. You can't put math to it and say, yeah, the math says there was something there, that kind of thing.
Right. What do you think of EVPs?
EVPs, the way I look at them is I consider them legit. But the way I like to analyze them is I will grab the EVPs of the sections and I will break it out, and I'll just put them in files with just numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'll pass them out to my paranormal friends and tell them, hey, write down every word you heard in number 1. And they do the same thing for number 2, same thing. So they don't even know what they're hearing. They don't hear the questions. They only hear the answers. So they can't put their mind to it and say, you ask them, okay, what's your name? And then they hear Bob,
Gotcha. That's a
So,
good idea.
because so I only take the part that doesn't have the questions, and I write down what the questions were, and I put them with numbers, and I just name them like 1.wave, 2.wave, 3.wave, like that, and I ship them out, and then they send me back an email or whatever, with the number and what words they heard. Now I'll go back to the question and say, okay, were any of the words that any of my peeps found in there without knowing anything answers to the questions? If they are, I consider that very high level probability that it's real. If they just have, which most of the time, I just get random words that have nothing to do with the questions. Now I've done the experiment before where I took that same thing, played the whole audio for them after they did that, and then they heard all kinds of words once they heard the questions. But without the questions, they didn't know what the words were.
That's interesting. I never thought about that because, like, for me, I always like to leave in a little bit before and a little bit after.
Yeah.
So that people can.
And I'll leave a little bit before and after, but not including the question.
Right.
I'll give it like 10, 15 seconds, even if it's a 2-second word, and I give pretty good spaces between it when I do an EVP session because I know I'm going to cut the audio apart when I do that.
So yeah. Ryan says false positive results without debunking and taking natural explanations into consideration is a huge issue. Correct. Which has become very common evidence presentation. Science will move us forward. Yes. Kudos, Shane.
And the nice thing about it is that's free. I mean, you're already recording the stuff. Just before you let your guys listen to it, break out just the answers, store them as separate files, send them to them, let them write down what they hear, and then go back and compare them to the questions. If they match, chances are very, very, very high statistically that is a real entity. If they just are random words that have nothing to do with the questions, that whole session was bunk.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does happen, but then you always have to think, like, what if you're picking up on residual stuff? If it's not making any sense.
It's possible. I mean, and the other thing I've noticed, and I've done this as an actual lab test before, I've got some of my friends to come over and I'm like, all right, I'm going to play a bunch of these clips. You guys tell me what words you hear. And then I'll play the other part and then tell me what words you hear. And what you'll find is almost all the time, without the contextual cues of the questions, the words are just gibberish or they're nothing, or they say, I don't hear anything. But then as soon as you put the question, oh, now I hear something. It's like, yeah, that's pareidolia. That's your mind filling in the blanks, which our minds are built for that. So we do that.
One of my favorite people on the planet, Doc Molnar.
I know him. Matter of fact, I investigated with him just recently.
Well, yeah, he said we did some cool stuff at Hinsdale is what he said.
Yes, we did.
He's awesome. I love him.
He is awesome. I love Doc.
Yeah. Ryan said, thank you for sharing that. So he wanted to make sure he got his comment out there. So here's something that I have found, right? And I'll try to, because people that are watching probably heard me say this so much because it's become a new thing for me after 20 years of investigating.
The dude run? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I'm picking on you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yes, I agree, Ryan. Audio pareidolia is a very, very, a very big thing.
Yep.
So for me, I have about 6 or 7 recorders. I'll try to make this as short as possible because how much I hate that. I'm always like, did I talk too much? Anyway, so I put out 6 to 7 recorders. And everybody else now does these EVP bursts.
Yeah.
So I leave my recorders going.
Yeah, but then you got however many hours you were there times 6 or 7 to listen to. And no human can do it.
But I do. I don't know.
You do? Maybe you're not human.
I mean, I'm still working on stuff from last year.
Yeah. See, I think if you cut it down and only just grabbed the sessions and then, do it that way,
I would miss the cool stuff that I've caught.
That's true. And my wife has said the same thing.
With that being said,
because she's an investigator too.
What I've 3 times now, and I'll give you an example. So when somebody was doing an EVP burst, my recorder's going. I'm also live either on YouTube or Facebook or
Sure.
TikTok. One of the two I'm live on, because I found that when I go live through StreamYard to do it, like sometimes I'm getting, it doesn't
Yeah,
come in as
understood.
clear. So I pick one. So I was live on one of them. I think it was YouTube. And then had my recorder going, and everybody else were all doing an EVP burst.
Sure.
Like a 2-minute EVP burst. They ask a question. At the time, it wasn't heard. And then we rewound the recorder. This one certain question didn't have an answer the first time we listened back.
Sure.
Caught an EVP, or what we thought was an EVP after. She rewound it, went back too far. And that same question came up, which the question was, what is the family business? So now that has been said out loud said out loud once in real time, and then replayed twice via recorder.
Sure.
Well, the third time that question was asked on my recorder picked up factory work.
Okay.
A male.
Okay.
It wasn't picked up on the live feed.
Yep.
Wasn't picked up on anybody else's recorders.
Yep.
And it wasn't picked up on the original recorder for the EVP burst.
Okay.
Now that's happened to me 3 times last year.
Okay.
That I'm finding.
Yep.
So now I'm like, okay, can they hear better via recorder the way we hear better via recorder?
Yeah. Well, so, and I have some theories on that. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to build some more equipment here soon.
Yeah, I want to hear your theories. It's interesting to me.
So
I'm listening.
Okay. So basically, there's the theory that ghosts or entities can pick up or manipulate, again, EMF or magnetic fields or electric fields like that. And there's also a theory that the ghosts themselves don't really generate an audible sound, but yet directly touch the microphone of the device that there's recording, and literally without any human audible sound can put the sound on the recording. Because all they do is, because a microphone, the way they work is they're a little rubber diaphragm that's hooked to a little coil of wire. And when your voice talks, the coil of wire wiggles, and that causes an electric magnetic field, which then the digital recorder stores on, the memory stick. Okay. So what I'm saying is the ghosts may just skip the audible part and just directly manipulate that little bit of wire there. So they would be not heard by the humans standing there, but yet when you play it back, you hear them just fine. Okay. And so the idea behind that is, that the instrument's hearing it directly, not hearing it via sound, because sound in the air is just vibrating air.
So you don't think they can hear better via recorder?
Correct. And then the other thing is I have a suspicion that when people talk, they may only see their lips move, and they might not, because they can't generate air movement, they might not be able to detect air movement. Because in order to detect air movement or vibrations, you would have to have some kind of physicalness to you. So unless they've, vaporized into an apparition and they're standing in front of you where there's some solidness to them, I'm not sure they can actually pick up the sounds.
So how would it answer it on cue?
Well, here's the thing. If your recorders are all sitting around in the room, when you talk, your recorder vibrates and picks up that sound. It generates a little tiny electromagnetic field. They may only be able to hear you if the recorder's in the room.
Okay.
Which is why a lot of times people go impromptu and they don't have a recorder with them and they try to contact a ghost or do whatever. They don't get anything. But then they come back to the same spot and they bring a whole room full of recorders, and every recorder is generating just a tiny little bit of electromagnetic field as you're talking. They're hearing the recorder and they're talking back to the recorder, not talking to you directly.
Right.
So it's like they might need that technology to help them.
Oh, I gotcha. So you're saying it's probably it would be just the same as answering an EVP, but I mean, it's not that they heard it better.
No, it's just that they can hear it, because otherwise they may have to lip read or whatever. I mean, if they're not physically strong like they haven't manifested themselves as an apparition. So they're not physically, in this side of the veil. They might not be able to actually hear our voices. So without those machines in the room, they might be deaf, or they'll see us talking and kind of lip read or kind of guess what we're saying by our mannerisms or our, whatever. So that is just a theory that I've had. And so one of the pieces of equipment that I'm going to build soon is, consider it like a CB radio to the other side. So what this thing does, it doesn't even have a microphone. It just has a big coil of wire, and it has a like a CB radio microphone to talk into. And so it listens to that wire. And then when you key up and talk, it transmits EMF of your voice out of that wire, but like 1,000 times stronger than like a voice recorder would.
Whoa.
So it'd be like a megaphone into
For
the
the other
EMF
side.
for the other side. And so
Whoa.
I've already got it mostly designed, and I'm just getting ready to build it. So the great thing about it is it itself doesn't have a microphone to listen with. So if you hear voices or any other electromagnetic things, you will hear them not from the sound in the air, but from the actual EMF itself. You're going to actually pull it out of the ether, out of the other side from that.
Ryan says, I've personally worked with audio equipment for nearly 25 years as a musician, and I implemented my experience when I investigate. I personally watch people mistake investigators, mistake natural explanation as actual voices. It's all the tone. Yeah, no, this was straight up like I have the audio, I have the video because it was live, and obviously you save it. But yeah, this was clearly factory work. It was an answer by a man that was not answered the first 3 times, or the first 2 times it was asked. It was the third time on the recorder.
Yep.
It answered, but only my recorder picked it up, not the live video, not anybody else's.
Yep.
So, I mean, if it was somebody in the room, it would have came up at least on the live video.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I say, Tim, yeah, I'm a ham radio operator. I've been an operator since 94. He's asking me about ham radio stuff. Yeah. I'm a SKYWARN coordinator and ham radio operator, extra class, all those things.
That is so all foreign. That's like Chinese to me.
That's all good. So, but anyways,
this.
But the idea is the second use for this device is debunking the K2 meters, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't,
because
K2
here's the deal. The K2 meters do what they say they do. They detect a magnetic field or electromagnetic field, and they make an indication of how strong it is. That's great. The problem is, man has made a lot of things on this planet that makes a lot of electromagnetic field.
Yes.
The nice thing about my device, when it's complete, you will be able to hear those electromagnetic fields. And so now you can identify what it is. So if somebody says, oh, I'm getting a reading on my K2 meter, I'll put my little wand right in the exact spot where the meter was. I'm like, no, I can hear the hum. That's just a power line. Or nope, that's a computer. Or, oh, I can hear it. That's a Wi-Fi. Or no, if I hear a voice in that thing, now that is going to be weird because it doesn't hear sound voices. It only hears EMF voices. So
what happens like if me and you were on investigation, we're using this, right? And I hear a disembodied voice because I can hear sometimes, not all the time.
Yep.
But it doesn't pick it up. Would you
then
say
then at that point, whatever it was generated audibly by vibrating the airwaves, not electromagnetically. So that's what it would tell you. Now, I would assume that an entity would be the opposite. The device would hear it and you wouldn't, but I don't know. I mean, I've never captured a ghost to sit there and, hang out. Oh, it's Brandon. Hey, Brandon. So, he's another one of my buddies.
Let me see up here. There's a question, Darren.
Okay.
Question. Do you think plasma balls and Tesla coils too much for spirits to handle, or does it hurt them?
Okay. Well, I'm going to say they're just fine. Matter of fact, my sensor board actually has a plasma ball attached to it, and it logs the energy either being put into or pulled out of the plasma ball. And it's very sensitive. I mean, like you can literally walk like 3 feet away from the plasma ball and I can see it on the sensor board. And so yes, I'm going to say it's fine for them, or I hope it doesn't hurt them. I've never got a negative reaction, and I have seen limited amounts of support for them messing with it. So yes.
That's awesome. Justin, see, this is what, and this is, somebody had put up a post today about, everybody in the field that's working so hard. I feel like people like you, Shane, and even Kenny Biddle, who
I know
is
him. Yep. He's a
who
buddy.
is a skeptic, right? I mean,
Yep.
he's a skeptic, but people like you that are trying to find ways to, go forward, because we're stagnant.
Yeah.
We're
Yes,
stagnant.
I absolutely. The whole thing is just spinning. I mean, there are very few like PhD science laboratory professors that are doing some stuff with this, but it's a handful in the entire country.
Yeah.
The general mass population of ghost hunters all do pretty much the exact same thing. And I mean, if they're having a good time and it's working for them, good to go. But the problem is most of the stuff they collect, even if it is something good, there's no way to really give it credentials.
Right.
If I can do some statistics and say, well, statistically, yeah, that was probably a thing, there's a lot higher chance of it being real, and you can then show people and repeat it.
Right. Yeah, I'm so big on EVPs. Like, you won't.
Like I say, I don't have any problem with them as long as they're done right.
Yeah. I probably aren't doing them right.
Sorry, but maybe not quite. But
right, I'm doing it right.
I'm just beating up Taryn. I'm like, boom, boom.
But like I said, I also can hear, though. And what I love about that is I say it. If I think I hear.
Yeah, and that's my wife is very much like that, and I've noticed that many more females are that way than males, and I don't know why. They're more sensitive to things. They pick up more things typically.
You know what it is men don't pay attention to detail.
I agree with that.
Right. And women do. Like,
well, yeah.
And when I say that lovingly.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I could be standing here and, my boyfriend could walk in and I go, oh, can you move the skeleton? And I'd be like, what skeleton? The skeleton that's on the couch right there.
Uh-huh. I'm that way. I'll admit.
the last audible thing that I heard off the top of my head, it was just me and one other gentleman. Yep. Now, granted, theory behind all this as well, it's all theoretical. I mean, we don't know for sure
absolutely
what's going on, right? But the theoretically, if your energy, I feel like we all have different antennas, right? So if me and you are sitting in a room, I might hear something that you don't, you might hear something I don't, or see something, right? And I think all of our senses are different. One might be better than the other. Some people might smell stuff. Some people may see.
Yeah.
And, I hear.
Well, and I think females, because most of the time, a lot of times they're moms, a mom will hear their kid make a tiniest little sound and instantly react to it, even if they can't even see them. So they're tuned to those tiny little human voices, little bits of, whisper quiet. Sometimes if the kid's too quiet, that's even worse than if they're making sound. So I'm just saying the women, as far as I've observed from the investigations I've been on, they are more sensitive to most of the paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
Just as a rule.
Oh, hi, Jay.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
Jay.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. I want to get up here. So Tim Lovejoy. Awesome. Did all of that. Also, I consider solar activity. This is all Chinese to me, by the way. But I'm sure Shane understands everything that it's saying. I mean, that you're saying. I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Space weather in my experiment. It's all.
Yeah, he's talking all hand radio stuff.
Yeah.
I understand all that. That's my normal stuff I talk about.
Oh, plus animals.
Yes. Okay. Animals are very sensitive. Cats specifically are very sensitive. Dogs and all these animals are very sensitive to paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny is, like, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, I had 5 cats, and one of them seemed to be affected by
Yep.
some sort of, you know, some sort of unseen something. I don't know what
Yep.
it was. And I remember afterwards, like, it looked like he got picked up and pulled back and dropped,
Yep.
which I have on video.
That's awesome.
And the only reason I was videoing, because you feel like you always got to, because people are like, why are you videoing? You know, because he was playing with the curtain shower, or the shower curtain. And it was funny the way so
Yep.
I video them. They're my children.
Yeah,
So
me too. I do.
yeah.
I have 6 cats, so I know about it.
Oh, yeah. And it looked like something picked him up, and then because he went like this backwards.
Yeah.
It looked like something picked him up. And I said, okay. I said, I don't care if you're here. I said, but don't hurt my babies.
Yep.
Because then I will politely ask you to go away.
Yeah.
Because
and you'll see animals all the time. You know, they'll stare at a blank wall, or they'll stare at a dark corner, and there's nothing there. But they're very, they're already got their fur up. They're like, that ain't right. And I'm sure they're seeing stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Guaranteed.
Oh yeah. Like when they're in this house, this is an old house that we live in.
Yep.
And stuff doesn't happen all the time. But they'll be sitting out there. I'll be in bed, laying there, trying to fall asleep, and all of a sudden you'll see one sit up, and then you see another one do this.
Yep.
And then you'll hear a little noise, and I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I'm going to go to bed. Like, what is happening? Like, you know. But the interesting thing about the cat thing was I was getting ready to go to a meeting with my paranormal group I was a part of at the time. And when I walked in, one of the mediums in the group was standing there with her hands folded, and she goes, I got to talk to you. I was like, what? She's like, did you tell your dad to stop playing with your cat? And I'm like, what?
Whoa, that's cool.
I'm like, no, this was literally 30 minutes after it happened. So there's no way. Like, I didn't have time to talk to anybody, tell anybody anything.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Yep. And I said, no. And she goes, well, he was playing with Zeus, and you said, don't touch my, and I said, I didn't know that was my dad.
Yeah. That's cool though.
So that was cool. Like, there's been only a handful of times that stuff like that has happened. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Brandon said Dr. Gary Schwartz utilizes plasma globe in his research on spirit communication. He has peer-reviewed articles which are available on his website.
Yep.
See, this is the stuff I love, even though I don't understand it.
Yeah. So I can actually enlighten a little bit on how that works. So basically the idea is that the entities can either pull energy from the globe or push energy into the globe or touch it in some way. Like a person touches it, you see the little zip, zip, zip as your finger touches the spot on the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's ways to electronically sense that and log it. So now basically you can ask the spirit to touch the ball for so many seconds, take your hands back, touch the ball again.
So if a spirit were to do that,
I would see it in the data.
But you wouldn't see the plasma ball react the way
you could.
I would.
If they touched it strong enough, you would see it.
Have you ever seen anybody get something like that?
I've never seen the ball really react to it, but I have seen things in the data before.
You would have to like attach something.
Yeah. So here, maybe if I describe how I do my investigation, it will make more sense.
Okay.
So I put the sensor board out. It's got all these sensors. It's got the plasma ball attached to it. It's logging everything every second, every sensor, every second. Then what I'll do is I'll let it sit there and run for like an hour. Okay. And all it does is just collect baseline data. It's just sitting there logging everything it sees. Then what I'll come in and do is have an EVP session. And I'll videotape the session. So, nobody can, so if there's any pranksters or whatever, you don't see people touching the board or doing things. So I videotape the board. I videotape the session so you can hear the audio. And then what I'll do is what they call a sensor walk. So I'll be like, all right, if there are any entities present here for the next minute, can you change the temperature? And I'll actually time it out for a minute. then I'll give them a couple minutes of time, and then I'll be like, all right, if there's any entities here, can you touch the globe? And I'll give you a minute to touch the globe. And then I'll go give them some time, and I'll go on another thing. Okay, can you change the barometric pressure in this room? Give them a minute or two to do it. Then what I can do is go back to the data, pull out those minute sections, and statistically, mathematically compare them to the baseline readings that we're getting before, and see if the sensor that you told them to touch was statistically showing a change from the background. If it is, there's a good probability that it's something. You can't ever prove anything, but it's a good probability. And you have some stuff. You can repeat it. You know, you can repeat it. You can be like, look, math says this sensor had a change. Because the thing with it is, sometimes the changes are so small that a human wouldn't notice them, but the statistics and the math will pull those changes out. And all of a sudden you're like, I mean, it could be just minuscule. You know, the temperature changed only a few tenths of a degree, or, you know, the magnetic field changed just a few milligauss. Well, it's such a small amount, a K2 might not even show it, or some other meter would maybe show a difference, but you wouldn't know. But if you get it to, you know, during that minute period, you get changes, and then it goes right back to the way it was, you know, then you have something to work with. And I go through all the sensors on the board and have them do that. And, you know, and then I let them be for a while. I leave it just recording. And then I'll come back like an hour later and do another sensor walk, you know, or while somebody's EVP session's going, I'll tell them, hey, ask a few questions about, you know, some environmental, like, can you change the amount of ions in this room? Or can you make a static field in this room? You know, and I'll give you, and because I log the exact start and stop time, I know exactly when it should have happened. Then I can compare that to what's the normal.
Okay, so all right, I have many questions, and
Yes,
they are
absolutely ask them,
and they're not scientific kind of.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna ask the best way I know how to ask, like by trying to understand. You know this.
Yep. Okay.
Shane is my go-to. I text him because I just got a tri-field meter, which I thought was the old school tri-field meter with the dial.
It was the new one,
but it was an electrical one. So I texted him a picture of it. I said, "Tell me how I need to use this." But so all right, I go to Gettysburg a lot.
Yep.
If I said to out loud, let's say I'm somewhere and I'm in an old B&B and I'm looking to connect with Civil War. If I said, change the ions, like, do you ever get response to that? Like, do they know?
So usually I look at it two ways. Either number one, maybe when they cross the veil, they get enough info that they pretty much just know how things work that we don't even know how they work. And so for them, that would be a trivial task. The other thing is sometimes if I anticipate them being old, like 1800s, early 19, where before this technology existed, you know, then I will use other terms like, can you make static electricity? People from the 1600s knew what static electricity was. You know, you touch a doorknob, you get a zap. Can you make that? Or I'll tell them, change the temperature, how warm it is in here, how cold it is. You know, I'll dumb it down a little bit. Can you change the how thick the air is? And they'll change the air
down.
Huh?
You can Taran it down.
Yeah. You're silly. But, you know, so basically sometimes I do that. Now, the other thing is, remember, it's entirely possible that the entities you're contacting are not old. They could have died in a car accident 6 months ago.
Sure.
You tell them that stuff, they're like, okay, I'll mess with the ions. Here you go. You know, or, I mean, you don't know who you're contacting, how long ago. There's no way to know. So, you know, but I will tell you that many times when I've done this, I will get responses. And if you look at the data, you could look at like 4 hours of data, and that 1 minute section will have the change. Now that is statistically strange. I'm telling you right now. I mean, this sticks out statistically very strong. And so if you see things like that, where it's the same for hours, and then in that 1 minute period, when you asked the question, it changed, something reacted to it. I mean, very high probability.
Thoughts on Breakthrough by Konstantin Raudive.
Yeah, I know him. Konstantin Raudive is the guy that originally started the EVP stuff, and he was recording birds outside of his university window. And then when he played the bird recordings back, he heard voices. But that's one of the first times that anybody's ever recorded with an electronic recorder. And
Right.
so he was like, wait a minute, where are these voices coming from? There was no sounds outside. I'm in the country. There's
Right.
no people out there. And that's
Right.
what he did. And Breakthrough is a book that he wrote. I haven't read it yet because it's really expensive and hard to find it. It's very niche book. So I haven't read it yet, but I want to, and I know
Now
what
I'm
it
gonna
is.
look for it.
Yes. And you can find them if you want to pay a couple $100. Some people are just crazy because they want so much for them because
Well,
it's old.
yeah. And
From
I'm such a and I'm one of those people. Like I love you because of what you're doing for our field, because that's what I want to see
thank
happen
you.
for our field. But I'm not and I'm going to say this, like I don't
Mhm.
mean this to put myself down, but I'm not smart enough to do that stuff. So like
Oh, I'm not sure. I
if
think if
I
you
were
actually saw it in action and
yeah.
had the devices, you could
Well,
do
yeah,
it.
maybe if I was taught for sure, but so like if I were to if I were to put together my
Yeah.
fantasy ghost hunting team, if
Yeah.
you will,
That'd
you would be a part of it. Kenny would be a
be
part of
awesome.
it.
Yes.
I would need those people because I go into a location, I lay on the floor, I close my eyes for 10 minutes. And for me, I'm using my senses. So
Yep.
I'm like listening,
My wife does that same thing because she
hearing,
goes on it.
smelling, everything, so that when I start to investigate, if I hear something, I know I've already heard that sound because it was the house or it was this or it was that. That's familiar to me. So when
Yep.
I hear something that's not, right?
Yep.
Um, I am like classic for just recorders and and I bring a camera, but
Yep.
I barely take pictures. I'll take pictures of location.
I take pictures of the location and I videotape the board while it's running, just more for to prevent uh, people faking stuff,
Right. Yeah.
because people, they'll walk by and they'll just touch the thing, and then you look at the data and there's a big blip. It's like, what does that from? But then I can just go back to the video, because the neat thing about it is I sync the video to the equipment, so I can go right. Yes, he is correct. He also did Jurgensen. He's the one that did the birds. Constantine was his buddy. So I
Oh,
got it. So Steve corrected me. That is, yes, slight correction there. So, but yeah, Jurgensen was the first guy that recorded it, and then he got with Konstantin Raudive, and then they dove in deep into the EVP world. And that Breakthrough book is a good book. So
yeah. I see. And then I'm an EVP girl, so I
yeah.
like that's my thing. That is my.
Yep. Now I will warn you, the book is sciencey.
Mhm.
So if you get it, you might have to get your web browser up and look up a lot of the words and things,
Probably.
but it's okay. So, but you might also learn some really cool things you didn't know before,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean and that's the thing. Like for me, like I want I want what you guys are doing for the field, I want to happen, but like I'm just kind of like like going along with the ride because I'm not as smart as that when it comes to stuff like this, you know.
Sure.
Me, I'm street smart, you know, I can, you know, go in there, I have my recorders and you know,
Yeah.
I have I get stuff from Vortex Ghost Gear, right? So I get because I
Yep.
trust what they make,
Yep.
you know. So, you know, I got a trigger prop, a
Yep.
cat. I
Hmm.
don't put any that much weight into stuff like that because
Yeah. Well, and I think I've told this story before. I had a friend that had a REM pod, and he kind of got it as a knockoff. And he's like, yeah, man, I found this REM pod. It's like a quarter of the price of the other ones. And I'm like, okay. And it's sitting there and it's beeping, it's making noises, and the other equipment's kind of just sitting there quiet. And I'm glancing at the live readings on my board, and I'm like, why is that thing going off? There's nothing in this room. And then finally I was like, hey, can I look at this thing? And so I picked it up and I took my Leatherman out and I started taking it apart. And I took the whole thing apart and I'm looking at it. And then I look at inside and I looked up the chips that were on the little board on the internet on my cell phone. And I was like, now wait a minute. That's not an ion detector. That's a random timer. And so all it's doing is every so many seconds or minutes, it's blipping some lights and making a beeping sound.
Oh,
And
my
so it
God.
really had nothing. The antenna didn't even hook to anything. It was just a prop.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't even bother to put it back together for him. I just set it down on the table. I was like, this thing's a piece of junk. It doesn't do nothing but flash lights at random intervals and make beeping sounds.
See,
And
and then you have people that are out there
yeah,
doing that stuff.
and I'm like, well, you get what you pay for. And,
True.
you know, but so I was just like, poor guy, his pile, his little gadget's just in a pile of wires on the table. I didn't even put it together. I'm like, you don't want this thing.
I can't begin to tell you how much money I spent on equipment and I use none of it.
Yeah. And some people are that, like my wife, she uses a basic voice recorder and a camera and a notepad and a flashlight, and she's good to go.
That's me.
You know, and she does a good job and she gets good stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, she gets better EVPs than I do.
Yeah.
And mostly because I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on watching instruments and, you know,
Right.
watching live things on the, you know, laptop as I'm recording all the readings.
But
et cetera,
see,
et
that's
cetera.
what's good. When you combine those
Yes.
two,
Yep.
when you combine the two, that's what makes a successful investigation. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Understood.
you
Yep.
have somebody that's doing it, you know, I'll say on the spiritual side of it.
Yes.
And then you have somebody that's doing it on the scientific side of it.
Yes.
And you're combining the two. That's like,
Yep.
that's like awesome.
Yeah. And there's other things you can do too. If you want lower tech stuff, here's a really cool idea to do. Take a 6-sided regular piece of dice, a regular die, put it in a small glass jar. All right. Then ask the entities in the room to make a certain number come up more than all the other numbers. Now, a real die normally should have a 1 and 6, and everything should be exactly the same every time you shake it. It's just random.
Right.
We have had sessions before where we picked a number and we would shake the jar like a dozen times, 20 times, and write down every number that comes up. Then count how many of each number showed up and find out if the number that you chose ahead of time came up more than true random, because everything should come up at 1/6 because that's the statistics for it.
Right.
1 out of 6 chance. Well, if you get like a whole bunch of the same number, way more than, you know, and it, especially
But
definitely
you're shaking it.
You just shake it. And the nice thing is, because it's a glass jar, you can't touch the dice. You can't influence it. You know, you're just going to shake it and set it down on the table, write the number down, shake it, set it down on the table, write the number down, and just do it nonchalantly. And we have in the past had that such that number that you picked ahead of time would come up statistically way more than chance.
But you're saying
the entity will interact with it.
Yeah. So you say,
make a number 3 come up more than all the other ones.
Gotcha.
Okay, here I go. And you just shake it and do it like 20 times.
On my next investigation, I'm going to try it.
It's cheap. I mean, a baby food jar and a dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
it's amazing because a lot of people think that the theory behind spirit is that, you know, they don't have the energy to manipulate things and this and that, right? So like a lot of the things that people come out with and a lot of things that people do use to investigate with, you know, or whatever it is that they're doing, you know, are things that are easily manipulated, right? Whereas that is something that would be more tangible, something you would think would be harder for them, you know what I mean?
Yep.
For them to be able to manipulate.
But they have. We've seen it come up more statistically, you know, than the norm. Now, most of the time you do it, nothing happens. You know, you go through all the numbers. Yep, it's just chance. Nothing happened. But occasionally at some locations, they will do that. Another one that I will do, and this is an interesting, cheap, free one, get a stack of index cards and then write simple words on each card, one word and a number. Now, here's the thing. You write a number in the bottom corner and you write the word, okay? Then you start an EVP session. Then you hold the card up and say, any entities in this room, say the word out loud that's on this card. And I'll just say the card number, like number 17. And so that way, when you go back to your voice recordings, all you hear is the numbers but you don't hear and then you have the replies, but you don't know what the words were until you go back. So there's no way you can trick yourself.
I'm writing this down because that's
Okay.
good. I'm going to
Yes.
use it. I'm going to
just
use
get
it.
a stack of 100 index cards and put simple words like car, boat,
Right.
cat, things that even a child could read, because you don't know what the entities are on the other side.
Right.
And the great thing is because all you say out loud is the number that's on the card, not the word.
Right.
If you hear that word on your recording, it came from them, not you. And because you know the number from the recording, you can go back to the card and find the right word that went with it to check it later.
This is amazing.
So these are just simple things that you can do without fancy, expensive equipment.
Yeah, no. I always say like baby powder. I'm like, I throw baby powder.
Baby powder's fine. Yep.
It depends on what you're investigating, right?
Yeah,
like,
they don't like it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the other thing you can do too is get a big sheet of wax paper, lay it on the floor, then sprinkle your powder on it. Then you could just sweep it up and take the paper with you, and there's no mess.
I'm making notes.
Yeah. Another one. Let's see. What's another one that I do? Oh, a basic little compass. Just get a cheap little compass, because a compass is sensitive to the magnetic fields. The electromagnetic. If the electromagnetic field fluctuates, that compass will wiggle. And so, and what I'll do a lot of times is videotape it. That way, if the compass does move, you've got it on tape, and you've got the voice with it. You have the audio with it because they're video recording. Yeah. So, a compass is $5 on Amazon, and the nice thing about it is very sensitive. I mean, it can see the Earth's magnetic field. So even the faintest entity should be able to move it if they so choose. I mean, if they could throw books on the floor, they should be able to wiggle the compass needle, whether they physically touch it and push it, or whether they magnetically shift their magnetic fields or their electric field and it shifts the compass already. So that's another simple, cheap thing that you can do if you don't have fancy equipment. And it's nearly foolproof, because a compass sat on the table by itself with nobody around it should never move. It should point north and sit there.
Well, that was I was going to ask you. What if you shouldn't hold the compass?
Yeah, probably not hold it. And you shouldn't put your voice recorder right next to it, because the magnet and the speaker will make it just spin around and point at the voice recorder.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. If you'll try it sometime, you'll see. So basically, another important thing is absolutely positively have all cell phones in airplane mode.
Yes.
Because the signals that the cell phones give off to talk to the cell towers to stream your video, unfortunately also set off all the meters and equipment and K2s and ion meters and every other thing. So sometimes I'll see people investigating and they're holding the cell phone in one hand and they got their meter in the other hand, and it's like, oh, it's going off, it's going crazy, la la la. Shut off your cell phone or put it in airplane mode, and all of a sudden it just all stops. Because I see this all the time on my sensor board, because while I'm doing my baseline readings, I'm just kind of glancing at the numbers that are coming in, and I know what they should be typically. Right. And all of a sudden I'll see them going all over the place. I'm like, all right, who's got the cell phone on?
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, for all the people that love to monetize their stuff and live stream, you can't have your cell phone off of the tower because you can't stream. So at that point, I would say if you're going to do it, don't do it live. Just record it with a regular video recorder and then upload the video later, because the cell phone signals are very strong and they do show up and they give a lot of false positive, way more than people give credit for.
So I feel like people say they have gone live in airplane mode. You can't?
You cannot, because with an airplane mode, that means turn off all the radios and all the communications. Because it's those radio signals when it's trying to talk to the cell tower to upload your video. Those signals are EMF signals, very strong ones.
What about?
Go ahead.
Hotspot.
Hotspot, same thing. Anything that connects to the outside world is giant plumes of EMF just emitting from that device. I mean, try something sometime. Take your K2 meter, set it on the table, set your phone next to it, make a phone call. I almost guarantee that K2 meter will peg out absolutely full scale. Now, the nice thing about airplane mode is you can still use your flashlight. You can still use your phones, your camera. You can use your voice recorder. you can use your EMF, because phones have a magnetic field sensor in them. So you can use them as an EMF recorder and a lot of those things. And you could take notes on them. Sometimes I'll scribble little notes. But transmitters and those cell phones, when they're talking to those cell towers, just tear up every piece of equipment in the whole building. You know, I can tell when people are walking up and they still have them on. It's like, oh, dude, you got to shut that off.
Yeah. No, and I don't think a lot of I'm guilty of it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, people don't know. They don't understand. It just magically, they talk to it and they can make a phone call or they can send a text and it just magically goes. They don't realize that EMF is leaving that phone, going out to the tower, and then also coming back from the tower back into the phone again. Yeah. So it's a two-way communication.
Yeah, definitely airplane mode. And I know this. It's just sometimes I forget. You know what I mean?
And that's a lot of times. Yep.
Yeah.
People all do. Forget. I even do.
Yeah, like I forget, like, you know, I mean, this is what I do. I go live. I go live during my investigations. I go live during my
and it's difficult. And sometimes maybe if you want to do that, have 2 sessions. Have a go live session where you're talking about the place and you're talking up your show and all your stuff. Do that. And then when the real investigation and real EVPs and real stuff start happening, then put it into airplane mode and do your real investigation where you're going to collect your actual data you're going to keep.
Yeah. I'm going to start just recording my investigations and then, but see, the problem with that is, and this is the thing, I shouldn't even
you lose the spontaneity and you lose the live.
Yeah. And that's the thing I love. Like when I was at Selma Mansion, Selma Mansion took a while for whatever's there to open up to me. Is how I feel, because I love Selma. I've been there so many times. I support Selma 100%. But it wasn't until like the last time I was there, I was live on Facebook, and everybody that I was with was in one room. I was standing in the doorway, so my back was to the hallway, and there was this loud whistle behind me. And I go, "Whoa, did somebody just whistle?" Yeah. And only one other person heard the whistle.
Sure.
But everybody watching the live heard it.
Yes, because the phone picked it up.
And I heard it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but nobody else heard it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, okay, for me, that's enough valid. Like for me, that's like, okay, because if that was just a recorded video and I put it up, anybody could be like, oh, okay. I understand. You edited that. You did this. You did that, because there's so much of that going on now.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
So it's like a catch-22.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of times the nice thing about the sensor board is it logs a date timestamp every second. So every single reading gets a full date timestamp.
Wait, what was it?
The on my sensor board. When I'm recording, every entry that gets put in the recording has a date and timestamp to the second. And so I'll know when it happened anywhere in that whole time.
Right.
So it's easier to say, okay, yeah, it happened at this time. And then you can go back to video, go back to other things. So when the debunkers start coming to visit and saying, oh yeah, you just made it. It's like, no, here's all the timestamps. Here's all the raw data. Here's the video that matches it. Here's the audio that matches it. You want to argue? You want to argue now? You want to argue now? Go ahead. I'll argue.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing. Because you can then take out the live, you know what I mean? You can do the airplane mode. You can do the things that you want to do. And, I mean, honestly, I'm not a faker, so I don't, but there's
and most ghost hunters aren't. There are a few, but most aren't.
Right. I mean, well, you have all those YouTubers now that want to like fake stuff.
It's all about the video and the flashiness and not really about finding ghosts.
Right. Or doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they just want to monetize their channels, and they want to just get the money for it, and they want to do it however, Yep.
But
I think that I can't wait for you to be done with it.
I'm getting all kinds of stuff.
Mark was asking up here. Sorry.
Nope.
Oh wait, hold on. Where is it? Where's his thing at? He asked about.
Oh, he asked where I was in Michigan. I'm in southern Michigan, south of Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo.
Yeah, it's a neat name, isn't it? Yeah, it's the nearest fairly big city. But I'm about a half hour south of Kalamazoo.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be going to Ann Arbor in March.
Yeah, well, let me know when you go because that's only an hour and a half from me.
Yeah.
I'll drive
So,
over and hang out.
yeah, for the Potographs for
Yep.
Pooches event. I'm supposed to be going to that. God willing, the weather isn't bad because you Michiganers.
Well, in March it should be pretty good. March
The,
is springtime for us. It'll be just rain if anything.
the beginning of March.
Yeah, even still, probably not snow. Probably just rain, if anything. It might be 50 and rain.
Well, that's good then
Yeah.
because I'm driving
Yep.
because I don't fly by myself.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
It is a long drive, but I won't fly by myself either.
Yeah.
How far are you from?
Oh, Dowagiac about 45 minutes.
And have you heard of the Dewey Lake Monster?
Have not. I don't get so much up on the cryptids and all the I mean, I like UFO stuff and I kind of watch that stuff, but I don't, I mostly focus on the paranormal spirit entity, trying to find out if something happens after we die, basically, is my big goal.
Yeah.
Is to, do we survive after we pass?
Yeah.
So,
have you visited Eloise in Michigan yet?
Nope.
So here's the thing. If I die before you, Shane.
Okay.
I want you to come to the Eisenhower farmhouse in Gettysburg.
Okay.
And I will sit down and I will have a conversation with you because that's where I'm going to be.
Okay.
When I die.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm with it. I will give you all the evidence you want.
Oh, yeah. I'll take it.
We'll have to come up with a code word, right?
Yeah. We'll do that sometime.
And I'll tell you the code word and you tell your wife what the code word is.
Yep.
And then we would have to get somebody random.
We could figure it out.
Yeah, we would have to figure it out. But that's where I'm going to be when I die.
Okay.
So you're more than welcome to come to visit.
Yep. Oh, yeah. We like the historical stuff anyway.
Ike and Mamie, because I think Ike and Mamie are still there as much as they loved Gettysburg.
Yep.
And we'll sit down. We'll have some tea.
Sounds good.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not so much into the cryptids.
Yeah, I'm not either. Well, I'm not.
I mean,
I'm really not. I don't know much about
basically things like Bigfoot and those kinds of things. There's very few and small amounts of undisturbed land, and with all the satellite views and helicopters and drones and the not having a single body ever found, the chances are pretty small.
I know, and I don't believe in the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I don't. I don't know. Like I know.
I mean, I kind of have. I mean, like UFOs could be a thing because it would be ridiculous to think that as big as our universe is, that our one little tiny grain of sand sized planet in this whole thing is the only thing that has life in this whole. No, that would be retarded. That would be statistically, it's impossible. Almost.
I agree with you.
Now, whether they visit us or not, I don't know, but there's got to be life forms out there somewhere.
Who would come here?
I don't know. They probably come here and laugh at us like a sitcom.
Yeah, I mean,
have you guys watched Earth today? Yeah, look at these guys.
I'm on like season 200 and I can't stand it.
These guys are boring. They never do anything new.
They have no idea. We're so way advanced. Like, they think they can talk to ghosts from a recorder.
Yeah. I can just picture it. So, I mean, that's my view is, aliens could probably do exist, but whether they visit us or not, I don't know. But as far as most of the other cryptids, I think they're, we'd have found them by now. We'd have lab specimens and you could go to the, Chicago Museum and see them if they were real.
So it's safe to say that you are a believer of the thereafter.
Yeah, because I have seen things come up statistically that shouldn't, and math doesn't really lie. And, and I have every bit of data I've ever created from every investigation I've ever been to all logged. So if anybody wants to ask me, well, how did that investigation go? And did you find anything? I can just go back and look. Yep, I found this, this, and this, and there they were. And here's the video. Here's the numbers. Here's the audio. There it is.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. I really, which by the way, I have to set a meeting up with you because one of my peaches got a piece of equipment she doesn't know how to use.
Okay.
And we want to use it. And I said, I know just the guy.
Yeah, we'll just do a thing like this. And we'll just do it live we'll just get together and have a thing.
Yeah. So I told her we would I would hook that up. So this is a good interdimensional creature. Skinwalkers say this. Native American has sworn. So Native American to me is on a whole nother level. Like
Yep.
Native American spirits and stuff like that, and any
Yep.
but like Skinwalker, like the Skinwalker Ranch, for example, which
Mhm.
I've never watched any shows about it because I'm one letter short of PETA. So like
Yeah.
animal stuff would just give me
Yep.
nightmares.
Yep.
You know, but how do you like? I mean, what is Skinwalker Ranch? Like, what is it about that place? Like,
Yeah.
that is so. I mean, there like so many crazy things have happened there.
Yeah. Well, we just need somebody to get there with some logging equipment and get some data and see what we see.
Oh, Jay, you're awesome.
Jay is awesome.
So bring up Studio 6 podcast. I mean, I know that you and Jay.
Jay. Yeah, I'm the co-host for Studio 6 Paranormal Podcasts. We normally do Sunday nights every couple weeks, and we basically have a show very similar to this. We usually have a guest on. We have two of us as you know, co-host and co-host, and we just talk about same stuff we're talking about tonight. It's a pretty good show, and I've done a couple tech talks. Those are kind of interesting.
And you also work closely with one of my favorite people besides Jay, but Dave Schumacher.
Yep. Him and I are buddies. And Don and Brandon, they're all my buddies.
Yeah. Dave is a part of the Four Tortured Souls, I'll say it.
Yep.
They always put up that it's 3 tortured souls, but it's really 4 because I'm the 4th.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it.
And I love Dave. And one day I didn't have my glasses I didn't have my glasses on, and when I had my glasses off, he looked like Chevy Chase to me.
Oh, that's funny and interesting.
Yeah, it was so weird. I'm like, you look like Chevy Chase, and I would put my glasses on. I'd be like, oh, there you are. So Chevy, everyone.
Yeah, he's my numbers guy. Him and I talk statistics at like PhD level kind of stuff, and we're always comparing what statistical method could find this data bit better than another one. And I write a bunch of software to do the math for me because it's so tedious. To try to do it by hand is impossible. And so I've written quite a few pieces of software where you can literally just take the ghost data straight out of the board, dump it in the software and look at it and be like, oh, yep, there's something. And it already finds the statistically significant hits. It does all that stuff for you. So, you know, it's great because used to be when I first was doing, I was doing it all by hand or with a pocket calculator or a Excel spreadsheet, you know, and it was working, but man, I just spent hours because you got to think this thing's recording 26 instruments every second. Think of how much data that is. It's retardedly large amounts of data. And so to digest that by hand is crazy. Plus you'll make mistakes because you're human, and et cetera, et cetera. So I wrote software that will take that data and go, oh yeah, I know what that is. And it'll actually mark all the special spots in the data for you automatically. So
did somebody just say?
No, that was one of my wife's phone, I think, made sound.
Somebody said our own government studied that ranch. Yeah. I don't know. The Skinwalker Ranch fascinates me. The UFO thing, you know, I've never seen a UFO or
me either.
I've ever encountered one, but I'm with you on that. I agree that.
I mean, if they want to abduct me, I'll go.
I mean, who wouldn't at this point?
Yeah, they can take me. Maybe their planet's nicer. I'll do a little spin around Jupiter and come back and hang out, you know. Maybe I'll give them one to smoke and they can smoke one and then we'll be friends.
Yeah, there you go.
They won't take over our planet.
Right.
They'll be too peaceful.
Then let the probing begin.
Yeah, well, I'll skip the probe. I'll trade him one for a probe. So we have to seriously, when you get your thing made, I want to experience it. Yeah, we will. We'll definitely. It'll be great.
I want to learn how to I want to learn.
Yeah, and I think once you actually sat down at a computer with me and saw how I do stuff and saw how things work and saw it once, then the light bulb would come on and you'd be like, oh, that makes totally sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah,
might not
because
understand all the numbers, but you would get the gist of it really quickly.
right. And here's the thing. I think for me, the biggest thing for me is integrity and being honest, right?
Yep.
And I've gotten one apparition photo
That's cool.
in 20 years. One.
Yeah, and I don't have any, so you're ahead of me.
One. I
Yep.
have one missed photo
Yep.
in 20 years. I have thousands of EVPs.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, and they're not all class A.
Yeah.
If you will.
Yep.
I know everything keeps changing. Every time you say something, it's like taboo anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
oh,
class A is the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just chatting amongst
Oh,
themselves.
they're okay. But I would prefer to be wrong than be wrong and presented as such.
Absolutely. And
You
that's
know
a
what I
good thing
mean?
for integrity. Yeah. Which is part of the reason I've tried to take myself out of what I do, because computers don't lie. They have no skin in the game. Sensors don't lie. They just see what they see and they record it, and there's no human interaction. I mean, literally from recording to final results, it's all just computers, math. There's no human there's not really a way you can mess with things. You know,
Yeah. What do you
because
think
the
of the
human ain't part of
SLS
it.
camera?
They're crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you're probably going to take abuse. Your forum board's going to fill up with, your Facebook's going to fill up with, you guys had a show and said that SLS thing was a piece of crap. Well, I'm telling
No,
you
but I
straight
mean,
out.
it literally, like, I remember when it first started, and when it first started, I had like just the Xbox camera that I had
Yep.
to hook up to my laptop and
Yep.
do all this, and it picks up anything remotely
Yes,
that
like
could,
a person.
yeah, but at first, not knowing any better, I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Well, and
right?
that's what it's supposed to do, because it's supposed to find the person so
Right,
that when you're playing the video game, it can follow your movements and move the character on the screen in the same
right,
way.
yeah,
And so it's great at finding things that it thinks are human or people and making stick figures. It's great at it. But
yeah,
it also, there's no, I mean, basically, if the SLS camera can see it and it was real, you could see it with your eyes because it's just a camera.
right,
So if you don't see it on, if you're pointing the thing at the wall and it's a blank wall and it's showing stick figures, but you don't see nothing, then there's nothing, because it's just looking at the light that your eyes are looking at.
right.
It's no different than you are. It's just a computer algorithm trying to find a pattern in what it's seeing as a picture. So
What do you think about the Estes?
So that has some credentials to it, because I like the fact that they're trying to take pareidolia out of it by not letting the person hearing the words hear the questions. It's the
Right,
same thing I was doing without all the SDs, and you can do it by yourself. Is, like I said, record the session, take out just the answers, let other people or yourself listen to the answers, and then not know what the questions are. It's the same. It is the SDs method without the SDs.
right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's literally to take the human bias out of it. So I give them credit for that. Now I'm afraid that a lot of times the noise canceling ain't good enough and the people are still hearing. Or the other thing is a lot of times they'll use a walkie-talkie to talk back and forth to the person that's doing the SD session. Like they'll put them in one room and the investigators are going in another room, and they'll talk on the walkie-talkie and they'll just keep saying the words they hear in the headphones or the words that they hear.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I'm afraid of is every time they're keying those walkie-talkies, all the sensors are going off all over the place because of the radio frequencies coming out of those devices. So that's how I look at it. So yes, the Estes method is a valiant way to try to get the human bias and the pareidolia out.
Right.
So I'll give them that. I think maybe the method where you're not having the same person within earshot. I mean, I think sometimes they hear the questions.
So
and
yeah,
still...
when I did it, we
Yep.
were all in the same room. It was the first time I ever did it.
Yep.
I never did it before.
Yep.
And this was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
And then I did it again about 2 years ago or a year ago maybe, and everybody but 2 people everybody was on the main floor.
Yep.
They had put one person in the attic.
Yep.
And there's a floor in between.
Yep.
And they put one person in the basement. They
Sure.
were down there by themselves.
Yep.
They obviously didn't have to be blindfolded because nobody else.
They can't see. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, there's no
totally
reason for them to be blindfolded.
Yep.
They did. They had an ear, and I didn't see the earpieces, so I don't know if they were like headsets or something like that, but they were
sure
Bluetooth wise to speakers that were where we were at.
Yep.
And they weren't like back and forth speakers. It was just we were
one way. Yep. So when they talk, you heard them.
Right.
Yeah, and then they would just record the words, or they would say the words they thought they heard.
Right. So we would be asking questions. Right. So to me, that was a little bit more. I was a little bit more interested in that because
it's more scientific by far.
Yeah, they couldn't hear us.
Yep.
And a couple of the answers were correct to the questions.
And in that case, I would give them credit for that.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
That method is good if you don't have any, especially if you don't have, other stuff.
Right. And here's the other thing. So I was one, there was two people they had. Okay, they said to her, you listen to what she's saying, write it down and write the time that you heard it.
Yep.
I had to write mine down.
Yep.
At the time that I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was I felt like I was like, oh, this is pretty scientific. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it is. It's cool. I mean, it's good.
So Doc says, I think the SLS has some use. Yep. I have had some really interesting experiences with them. The SLS uses an IR mapping system.
Yep.
You do have to know its limits. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I agree.
Once the SLS kind of, and again, this is back, like I said, when you were hooking the Xbox computer up.
Yeah, I understand. I know. I saw some of the original ones.
But we had a trigger pop that was like a dog. Mm-hmm. And we had on the table, and we were at White Hill Mansion in New Jersey. And it looked like it mapped out someone sitting and then petting the dog.
Wow. That's kind of cool.
The only time I've ever seen anything like that. Other than that, it's always been, oh my God, okay, that's a chair. It's not a person, or it's this or that. The only time that I've ever seen anything that significant with an SLS was at White Hill. And it literally looked like it was petting the dog. Wow. However, the dog wasn't
spooked.
It wasn't reacting.
Yeah.
It was a trigger prop, right? So anytime you think like if it picks up on EMF or it picks up on whatever to make it
trigger
go off or sound.
Yeah,
trigger,
it should do that when the ghost's touching it.
It should do that, right?
Yeah, should.
But it didn't do that.
But it did. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange.
You would think you would need both of those to say
yes.
Okay, that
I would agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still can't explain it.
Yep. And you come across strange things, I mean, just weird. Because here's a quick one. We were at a hotel over near Lake Michigan, and there's this one room. It's like the hotel manager's private room for them to sleep in or whatever. And everybody's like, man, this place is just crazy with activity. This room, you can't even lay in the bed for more than a few minutes and you get wigged out and all this stuff. And they kept going and going and going. And so finally I get there. Very first thing I do is carry my board and I plunk it down on that bed and I start recording. And I saw EMF readings just off the scale. And so I was like, holy crap. So then I was like, all right, where's this EMF coming from? So I started going around all over the place. And eventually I realized that in the basement, right underneath the bed, because this is the first floor, the basement right underneath is the power transformer for the entire building. And there's so much EMF that it could affect humans, guaranteed.
Right.
I mean, if you laid in that bed, you'd be blanketed in it. And so,
100%.
But so many, I was looking through the logbook where other ghost hunters had been there before. They were taking it was like a guest book. And they're like, man, we got awesome readings in that room. And they're just going on and on about all these EMF readings in this room. But nobody ever actually went to go figure out why are they so big, and why do they never go away? And they just buy straight up, their K2 pegged out the whole time they were in the room, so they just thought it was great.
No, I see.
But then you go down to the basement and you start
Right.
sniffing around with some higher end equipment, and you're like, no, wait a minute, that big transformer on the wall right there is where it's all coming from, and so there's so many of that's happening that they either, people don't know how their meter works, or they don't understand what's happening, or they don't understand things otherwise that can trigger them. And so they get tons of false positives, and these places get this huge reputation of being haunted, and wow, my meters were crazy all night. And it's like, yeah, but there's a power station right next door, or there's a big transformer in the basement, or air conditioning's turning on and off. I mean, all this stuff that people don't think about, because that was another thing that I had noticed with my sensor board data, because it logs a date and time. Everybody kept getting at a theater once, everybody kept getting these, every few minutes they get blips of stuff on their K2 meters. And at first I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. There's nothing really around here.
Right.
So then I went back to the board and I looked at it. At exactly every so many minutes, it did it precisely to the second.
Oh, wow.
So I realized what was happening was it was the HVAC system was cycling on and off. And every time it would trip, it would make a blip on the EMF meter. But see, the thing is just holding a meter in your hand or wandering around and you see a blip once in a while, you can't tell what that is.
Right.
But when you record 4 hours of it and you see every, 6 minutes and 10 seconds, it blips. Okay, that's man-made.
Right.
Because no ghost is going to go, okay, it's been 6 minutes, 9, 8, 10, 10 minutes, 10 seconds. There you go. Blip it. They're not going to do that.
Right.
So, without the ability to log and record your environment all the time, you can't tell when things are just natural things that happen. And I'm sure that catches a lot of ghost hunters, but I can never explain it to them well enough, or they don't have the equipment to actually do the thing. And so you just have to kind of be like, yeah, okay, that's cool, dude. And you keep moving, just to keep peace and keep moving. But, you need to have a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I wonder how your thing that you're building would be in Gettysburg.
Well, my guess is out in the open fields, it should theoretically do nothing. It should just be a quiet hiss of background noise of the earth itself. Right. And as you spin the wand, you should be able to hear the earth's magnetic field real faintly, like a hiss. Like, you ever hear an old radio that's just crackly and just no voice? That's what you should hear. Right, now, if you hear voices, that would be, whoa, crap. That would be guaranteed almost proof at that point, because there should be no voices there.
Right.
Because it doesn't pick up sound. You could scream at the thing and you won't hear nothing in the headphones. It has to pick it up electromagnetically.
Okay. And then what about, so the theory behind residual is it's a recording of the earth, right? The Earth's recording, should I say?
Yeah, the rocks and the minerals, etc., record the impressions of the emotions or whatever that were there.
Yeah. Now, I understand it. Would it pick up that?
If those were still there and still playing, yes, it should. Okay. And you should be able to hear them going.
Oh my God, we have to do that.
I need to finish the thing. It's been designed. Yep.
And we need to go to Gettysburg with that bad boy.
Well, and then the other thing is to try talking. Actually, key up the mic and let it send out a huge plume of EMF across the field. Yeah. Nobody will hear anything physically. Right. Humans won't hear it. Right. Now, all the voice recorders will hear it.
Right.
But the humans won't.
That's so awesome. I want to try it in Gettysburg.
Yep. We'll do it sometime soon.
We have to.
Yeah, maybe summer or something.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I would totally. I would.
Because it's not too far. It's probably 8 hours, maybe. I don't know. From my, I don't know. I don't know how far it is.
So yeah, we would have to plan we would have to have 3 days there.
Yes.
And then that's minus 2 days.
It'd be a great vacation too.
Yeah, it's an awesome place.
I know you go there all the time. I see your pictures on Facebook. You live there almost.
Yeah, I should live there. Listen to the recorded Earth's magnetic field recording.
Yep. What he's talking about is other scientists, when they're recording the atmosphere and the magnetic field of the Earth, That's why I said you would actually hear the Earth's magnetic field as you're moving around. You can actually hear the Earth's own sound and its own generated EMF because the Earth does make its own.
Now,
It's
when he
very
says
faint.
devices, does he mean on EVP on recorders as well, or just
Yes, that's what he's talking about. Yeah, sometimes,
recorders?
yeah, because sometimes if you actually did something, if you take your voice recorder,
Yeah.
go in the quietest room or space or outdoors where it's absolutely pure, positively quiet. Don't make any sound. And then move the recorder back and forth as quiet as you can. And then listen to it. And you'll hear this. That's as the microphone is going through the Earth's magnetic field. It's picking that up. Now, if it's stationary, it won't. But when you move, it will then pick it up. It'll be very faint.
Words.
Huh?
What if we hear words?
Then that's freaky because that shouldn't happen naturally unless there's paranormal stuff.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just like with a recorder.
Yeah. Yes. It's the same. That's what EVPs are.
Yeah.
They're the words. It's the same thing. Okay. And if you listen to your stuff, if you amplify the volume really loud, you'll hear that hiss and crackle and rumble in the background. That's the Earth's natural sound.
Oh, wow.
That's the Earth's magnetic field, the Earth's ionosphere, the Earth's atmosphere.
Oh, interesting. Because sometimes, like, right before something happens, like I'll hear a pop or I hear like a ringing, loud.
Yeah, and that could be the entity pulling energy from the environment to create its EVP.
Yeah.
I don't have any proof of it, but it could be. I mean, it's a theory that definitely could happen.
I would totally love to experiment with this thing you're making, you know, because I go to Gettysburg so much, I think that because 90% of my EVPs are intelligent, answers to my questions. I was at the 20th Main Monument and I was thinking globally, not 20th Maine, but I was thinking globally. I said, "Are you from Pennsylvania?" And when I listen back, you hear, "No, Maine."
That's awesome.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how excited I was when I got that. I nearly fell out of my chair. I was like, now, if I would have said, "Are you from Maine?" and then you hear, "Yes," anybody could argue that. Maybe it was your jacket rubbing. Maybe it was this.
Understood. Yep.
The wind, you know.
Yeah.
But to hear "No, Maine," you know, it's. I get mostly intelligent stuff from Gettysburg.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know if that's.
Well, and it might be. I mean, if the thing actually works, you might actually be able to just have a conversation, like on a radio. That would be crazy.
Be amazing.
That would be amazing too. And,
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But how would so if we're using this device?
Yep.
We're in Gettysburg in the field.
Yep.
Could I be live on my phone or I'd have to be airplane?
You'd have to airplane only because you would hear the chick at the cell tower through the whole thing.
Okay.
Because it'll pick up the cells, it'll pick up
I'm just
everything.
Curious.
Yeah. It would pick up. Now, you could be live if you were, 30 feet away.
Right.
But as you get closer, because the signal gets stronger by the square of the distance. So, twice as far, it's a quarter of the signal. So, if you stand 20 feet away, probably won't bother it a bit. But if you're standing right next to me, it would be crazy.
Shane, listen.
Yeah.
The Gettysburg Battlefield Bash is July 13th or 14th.
Okay.
Whatever that Thursday is.
Okay.
Or that Sunday.
Yeah.
If you and wifey aren't doing anything, you guys need to come out.
That would be awesome.
Device should be listen to me.
Yeah, I should have it done by then. I should have it done soon.
I'm like literally barking orders at you, like
No, I want to get it done because it's just gonna be cool. And we'll bring the board too, and we can record both. So
yes, let's do it.
Yep.
We have to.
We will.
I would love to work with you. You know what I mean?
We'll do the investigations anytime. It's just too bad we live, 12, 15 hours apart.
Yeah. But that's a good, Gettysburg is a good, no, that's not good. I'm lying. I'm being very selfish. Gettysburg's 2.5 hours for me. It's not even.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, 8, 10, something. But it's not undoable. I mean, it's within a day's drive.
But to me, that would be like the ultimate
paranormal,
like, you know what I mean? Like just go ahead and because you don't have to go to any indoor place to investigate there.
Yeah, you're just
I mean,
anywhere you're there. Yeah,
you
it's the whole
walk on the
place.
field. I mean, I've
Yep.
seen things on the fields. I've heard
Yep.
things, you know,
Yep.
anything. I mean, it's just, it's an amazing place.
Yeah, I agree.
And
So
somewhere for somebody like you to do some research
yes.
with
Well, and the
equipment.
nice thing about it is because it's open fields, there aren't power lines, there aren't, all this stuff that causes interference. So when you're taking readings, you're getting the earth and whatever entities and people and things are there, not, the neighbor's fluorescent light and,
Right.
because those things tear up, LED lights a lot of times tear up the
Now, what
readings.
happens about like with animals and stuff, like dogs barking in the background, birds chirping?
Won't affect it.
You won't hear that.
Well, the voice recorders will pick them up.
Right.
But the board itself doesn't record audio. I record the board with a video camera that has audio, but the board don't care about voices, sounds. You can talk, you can yell at it.
So like if me and you are sitting there, you have your board and I'm over there, and I go, I just heard somebody say something.
It won't affect it a bit.
But you would see a blip in your board.
I could see the board blip right away because it has live real time as well as logging it for later.
Would that be?
It would be cool. And I have had some experiences where, during EVP sessions, people would say something, hey, can you change the temperature? And there it goes, So,
I'm looking forward to this being finished and
Yep.
and whether you try it out with me or like we ever get, I definitely would love to see
we'll do it.
results and stuff like that from your equipment. God, an hour and a half already.
Yeah, I got time. You just keep going wherever you want.
I know, right?
Whatever you want to do.
No, I mean, it's just interesting. My other question I wanted to ask you was, what about DRV, the direct radio voice that I might have asked you this maybe in chat when we were talking and stuff.
Maybe.
The direct radio voice that Ron Yacovetti does.
I've never tested it. I don't have any info on it. I don't know much about it. I know who he is. I know he builds equipment and stuff. I've never met him.
He just does the DRV. He does this direct radio voice, and it's on a 222 frequency. That's what I'm really bad with. Like I have to to physically do things myself. You know what I mean? Like I have to so he's explained it to me a lot.
Okay. I need to just get a hold of him sometime and be like, all right, tech to tech, let's talk about what is this thing? What's it do? How does it work? And then I'll tell him about how my stuff works and we'll trade things. And
oh my God, do it on Paranormal Brew, please. I would love. I'll just sit there and be quiet and listen to
Actually, yeah, that's what we can do. We'll conjure up another show, put all three of us on there.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
And we'll just talk tech, deep tech.
I would love it. I would love it because I legit above spirit boxes and so it's almost like it's almost like it's scanning waves, but it's not radio waves.
Oh yeah, I understand how. I have a vague idea how it works. I just never tested one, so I can't give a good opinion on it.
Yeah.
So basically, what it does is instead of maybe if I back up here, like an SB7, SB11 standard spirit boxes, they go through the commercial FM or AM broadcast channels.
Correct.
As far as I know, the DRV thing goes through shortwave channel or just stays on one shortwave channel and listens there down in the low bands. So, yeah, and the 222 frequency, that would be 222 kilohertz, which is way down even below the AM broadcast band. And I'm sure that's all, German to you, but that's basically what's happening.
Because I remember him telling me, he's like, I make it.
Yeah, and I understand how it works, and I know what he's doing. I've just never checked the device. I've never touched one. I've never seen one, so I don't have an opinion on, does it work? Does it not work? Is it good? Here's, how could you change it? How could you improve it? Whatever. Yeah. I don't know until I saw it. Now, once I saw it and saw some circuit diagrams and some things, and him and I talked about it, then, I mean, it's probably somewhat similar to the device I'm working on building, but it's not exactly.
No.
It's different because it's a one-way. See, like on mine, I'll be able to send out the same EMF that they're bringing in.
Gotcha.
It's a two-way communication.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's the difference. But yes, I'm sure the thing is fine. And as far as I know, he's a good,
Oh
I've
yeah.
heard nothing. Yeah, he's great with technology and stuff.
Oh
I
yeah.
just never met him. I know just little bits and pieces I've seen on the web is all.
I would have to introduce you to, because you two would probably.
Yeah, we'll have the best time.
Oh yeah. Oh my
You might
god.
not get to talk much, Taryn, because we would be talking.
I don't care. I don't like to talk much. If Mark is still watching, he knows after every show, I go, okay, well, he goes, no, you didn't talk too much.
Yeah, no, you're fine. This is great. This is just a good hearted conversation.
Our famous Gore Orphanage Swift Mansion location in Vermilion, Ohio, or Helltown, Ohio, in Peninsula Township, the former town taken by government, eminent domain, crazy EVPs caught there during. So is that a
It's a
abandoned?
mansion. Looks like a mansion orphanage. Mansion. I don't know. I mean, I'll investigate anywhere. My biggest thing is, you know, I don't like expensive places, and I work a lot, so I can't travel all the time. But I can get a weekend, no problem.
Oh yeah,
And I can take, if it's a big event, I could, take a few days off work. But for me, mostly it's just everything is far away, and you gotta get hotels, and
I know.
people charge hundreds of dollars just for a night. It's like, dude,
I know.
you
I
know,
know. It does. It does get expensive, and it's hard when you have to work for a living, and
yep,
taking off a day from work or 2
yeah,
days off from work, it's such an impact. But
yep,
hopefully this year, there's enough going on where people who host these events, or the places, kind of, what they don't realize is that, what we're doing for them.
I know. It's like I should charge you for using my board at your place, not you charge me to come there.
Yeah,
The ghosts don't care.
I'm all about preservation of historical
Oh
sites.
yeah, if they're using it to keep the roof fixed and the heat going, totally great.
Yeah,
But some of these places I've been before, and I won't even say any names, but you go there, the place is run down, the walls are barely safe, the floor is barely safe, it's a
yep,
junk hole, and you want $400? No, I don't care
yeah,
what the name is. No,
yeah,
I can go find an abandoned something somewhere and go check it out for
for
free.
sure.
You
Look,
know,
you just go to well, I just go to Gettysburg.
yeah,
I go to Gettysburg because,
yeah,
I think that if there's such things as past lives, I've lived there every life. And
yeah,
I'm so resignated with that, with the hollow ground. I think the spirits are there.
yep,
I pick up on not, and I'm not a medium psychic.
yeah.
I'm
Me
not
either.
a medium
I'm like
psychic.
a psychic, like a rock.
Yeah,
That's about my psychic ability.
and for me, I think it's more of I don't know. I just,
Yeah. Well, and that's why Jay and I have the Studio 6 Paranormal. We're yin and yang. I'm the science, he's the spirit, and we do our show specifically for that.
right. And that's great.
So,
You
yeah.
need that. You need that. You
Yeah,
need
because
that.
I have nothing against the other side of the coin.
Right.
If you're a medium and you can sense stuff, great. And
Right.
it's like, how about if you tell me where I need to put my board to get the best readings? That'd be great too.
Right.
And I've tried that. We've done some investigations where we've had spirit mediums, and I've done some tests, A/B kind of tests, like, okay, you tell me where it's the strongest, and I'll put my board there and I'll let it sit there for an hour, and then I'll put it somewhere else where they told me it was not, and I'll see, is there a difference? Now, so far, I've never seen a difference between when they told me where this is where the spirit lives and where this is where it don't. But I've only done it 2 or 3 times, so that's not really enough to give a solid thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, we you got to do it with April. April.
April Busse, I know her.
Yeah.
She's been on our show before.
Yeah. You got to do it with her.
She's cool.
I've seen her in
Yep.
action, and I'm not,
Yep.
I'm not a big person with, psychic mediums and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's like with everything, right? They're popping up all over the place,
Yep.
but she is definitely, I have 3 people that I have witnessed unexplainable things, not
Yep.
personally, but have
Yeah.
seen them do things,
Mm-hmm.
and April just continued. I'm very close with her, but and then that's why it's more because I see I watch her shows and I talk to her more, so I see the things that she does. But somebody like that would be very. As a matter of fact, I'm taking her with me to this January 20th. I'm going somewhere where it's close to home. My dad grew up in a place called Birdsboro, Pennsylvania. I mean, it's like and I'm taking her with me because she's I trust what she's got to
and Jay is another one.
Yes, so, Jay.
I've never investigated with him, but he's got abilities, so
I'm surprised a picture.
Yeah, I saw that.
On the welcome to
welcome to Tarrensburg.
Yeah, everybody says that I should be the mayor of Gettysburg, or I should be like a spokesperson for Gettysburg.
There you go.
But it's just it's my passion, and happened way before I was into the paranormal. The paranormal came after. It was where I had my first experiences and stuff, and I mean, now I got the coordinates tattooed on my arm. I have a Gettysburg room in my house. I can't get enough of it.
That's cool.
And my background is Little Round Top Sunset. So.
Oh yeah, I see that.
So it's I would love to anything I can do new there, and to use that. I mean, I don't know. Do you need electricity and stuff for that?
No, I have a battery pack that I bring. So because a lot of locations that investigate don't have power.
All right.
Matter of fact, most of the time I would prefer if the location didn't have power.
Okay.
Because now I can eliminate 80% of the EMF garbage and noise and whatever, So if it's an abandoned house that has no power, I'd rather go there than one that's filled with fluorescent lights and every other kind of thing.
Yeah.
The instruments are much more sensitive when they don't have the garbage in the air. So
that's so true.
So I bring a battery pack. I do it all off a battery if I need to.
Yeah. And I mean, you could always I have there's always chargers and stuff. You come back, you can do it, but we definitely gotta try it out.
We can do it. We will do it. It'll be good.
Shane.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. This has been great.
I mean, you've been amazing. And I'm sure anybody can reach out if anybody has any questions.
And you can find me on Facebook.
Yep.
Studio 6 Paranormal.
Yep. I want to give a shout out because you guys I love Jay. Jay is amazing.
Yeah, he's cool.
We haven't talked that much lately, but we have had some really deep conversations, and he's a great guy. I love him. I think your guys' show is great. I look forward to doing stuff with you in the future.
Yep, we will.
I would love to be able to meet you and your wife and whoever else.
Yep.
If your wife is sensitive to EVP like I am, or disembodied voices,
she has everything you've described. You two are like two peas in a pod.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be.
Yep.
I would love to do something with somebody like that. You know what I mean? And then to have you on the scientific side of it. Yep. You know what I mean?
You could put her in as an honorary peach.
Yeah. Yeah, you call me on my shit, big. No, Taryn. This is not what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Hey. Great show.
Yes, it's been great.
Yeah, it has been. Tim says there is no dumb methods, no stupid ideas or theories. None of us has the answers and most likely never will, but we have caught undeniably evidence. No, it's real. In my opinion, intelligent responses are familiar spirits. Residual is voices and activities recycling in the time mediums. Great episode, guys. I really enjoyed this conversation. Onward. And 73.
73 is a ham radio thing, as like when two people get done talking, they're like 73. So for being a ham radio guy, that
so it's almost like when the cops say 10-4.
Basically, yes. It's 73 is more like you're like when you'd say goodbye on the phone.
Right.
We say 73.
Oh, okay.
Or 88 if you're a female.
88.
Yeah, females are 88s and guys are 73s.
That's cool. I learned something new.
See?
I learned a lot tonight, actually.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely we have to set something up, and I definitely want to where I want to play. I don't
Yeah.
mean to, I don't want it to sound like it's, I don't want to play with it, but you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to use it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I want to hang out and work with you.
All right.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on. Thank your wife for allowing you to give me some time this evening.
Hey, no problem.
And taking you away from whatever you have to do at home. And we'll have to set up another episode.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shane.
Yep.
I'll talk
Have
to
a
you
good
soon.
evening.
You too. Good night. All right. So, all right, guys, that was an amazing show. Shane cannot be any more awesome. You have no idea. He's just a great, 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 great guy. Please go check him out. If you guys have any questions about anything, equipment is the biggest part of our downfall too. It could be like, because a lot of people just rely on that alone. When you're not a psychic medium, you have all these things. And if you don't know what you're doing or how you're using it, I'm guilty. It's always good to have someone that you can go to in order to, and Shane's is my go-to with equipment and stuff. And, he'll tell you that. Really quick before I sign off, I just want to say that next week, I believe, hold on, I hate this. Where am I at here? Here I am. Next week, I have Matt Warner coming on. If none of you know who Matt Warner is, I would suggest checking in. He's all over the place. That should be a very, very, very fun show. I will have Shane on again, but again, Shane Feek or Studio 6 Paranormal. Check them out. And until next week, love you guys. Thank you, everybody that joined in and commented and hung out and talked with us. It was a good show. Until next time, I'll see you on the flip side. Now let me go here first. All right. Bye.